Hi, I'm Susannah Axelrod, and she already introduced me. So first of all, I wanted to thank you all for coming to this session when you probably could have been outside drinking.
So you can stay in here and drink.
Exactly.
That's fine too.
We
or
were
you could
offer
even
that.
better bring us beers.
Yeah, there you go.
We could all drink together.
So we wanted to give you the option to grab a beer, but anyway. This is obviously the roadmap presentation for all of Puppet Enterprise. So we're going to talk to you about what we're going to deliver in the next few releases in PE. And this is the third year that Lindsey and I have done this presentation. So I was really looking for something unique that we could do. We're not much of a comedy team, honestly. Lindsey can't tap dance.
I'm probably just going to fall off the platform,
which would be pretty amusing.
Funny,
but as I thought about it, I thought, well, we're product managers. I've been a product manager for something going on 15 years in sort of product and related functions. And we get asked a lot to present roadmap, and we really enjoy talking to you and telling you what we're going to do and what the company is going to do. But really the role, even more than that, is about listening, and it's about getting your feedback and getting your input. Because if we're not solving your problems with the roadmap, then there's really no point. That's the whole point to a roadmap. It's to address the things that you care about and that you need. So I made the decision a couple days ago to implement some live polling. It's a bit experimental, so, and I wanted to ask everyone who's here, please participate if at all possible in the polling, because it's going to look better the more participation we have, the more valid the response, and we have a couple of interesting displays that'll look a lot better when we have more people voting or more people answering the questions.
Get your phones.
So please get your phones out.
And thank you for whoever is behind DNS Apocalypse to make this a lot more interesting than maybe it would have been.
Yes, exactly. It's a bit of a nail biter, but cross your fingers, please. So, okay, so I'm actually going to kick off with a poll that's going to give us just a tiny bit of...
Yeah, get their phones.
Oh, get your phones out. There you go. Yep. All right, so I'm going to kick off with a poll that's going to give just a tiny bit of information about you. Did it work?
We failed already.
I have.
In slide 1.
Oh, what the heck?
The arrows?
Is it plus or where the hell is it? Do I click on next? Aha. There we go.
Yes.
All right. So pretty basic question. We're wondering how many people in the room are current Puppet Enterprise customers or in the midst of a deployment. How many are not yet, but you came here in order to take a look at what's coming in the product, you're considering a purchase. And no, you're just sort of an interested bystander, or you thought this was the bathroom and you kind of stumbled in here.
Yeah. Yeah, the texting is it's very convenient. It'll just text that, and then you can just do ABC, and we'll have additional questions later on, and you can just add.
So I wanted to give everyone a minute or two because they used my name, which is unreasonably long for this. All right.
Apparently they don't use DynDNS because it's all working.
Thank goodness.
Or Twilio doesn't either, which I guess is what's under this.
All right, the bars are still moving. Oh, good, we have a bystander. That's great. We have someone who just came in because they're interested in Puppet Enterprise. And that's good that we have a sizable chunk that are considering. Okay.
Well,
does anyone need more time? Anyone? Just raise your hand. Don't be embarrassed if you need more time. Okay. I think we're just about done. I think I saw one finger over there. It's still moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be a lag.
Okay.
Okay. Well, good.
Or that, or just somebody's just messing with us.
Really? Yeah, someone like.
Voting twice.
Yeah.
Doesn't let you do that. I tried.
No, I tried too. Okay, so this is good to know. So most of you are have a good grasp on what's in PE today, and so you're going to be able to follow along when we talk more about feature improvements. We have a sizable chunk that are considering, so we want to make sure that you're excited about what's coming. And then know people, hopefully this is interesting to you and gets you interested in purchasing Puppet Enterprise or in trying Puppet Enterprise out. All righty. Okay, so I'm going to talk through just what the sections of the roadmap are, and we divide them into 5 thematic areas. We do that because it gives you more context for the roadmap. It helps, helps us explain what we're doing. We also, to some extent, organize our teams around these areas so that we can build more cohesive roadmaps that kind of make sense going forward. So we're going to start out with situational awareness. I suspect some of you, many of you were at the keynote yesterday morning, so you heard those words. We used to talk a lot about reporting, and now we've changed the terminology to situational awareness because we think it's much more descriptive of what you can actually do with PE. So with PE out there on all your nodes, it's collecting information about your nodes, and you're seeing, as you make changes and as PE runs, you can actually slice and dice what those changes are, whether they're important to you, whether they're things you need to pay attention to. So it really does give you that awareness of your infrastructure and, over time. So data center standard is really the idea that we want to support, everything that has an IP address. And that's a really, really tall order. So I'm actually going to kind of size it down a little bit and say we want to support everything that's really important to our customers. So we get a lot of requests for things that are future-facing. We get requests for things that are considered more legacy platforms, AIX and Solaris. And we definitely, we listen to our customers and we plan roadmap around that. So I think that the next section is enterprise readiness. And that's what many of you are customers. This is an area that we talk to you a lot about, I think probably as much or more than the others. Because these are a lot of the things that are going to make you successful using Puppet in the enterprise. So they're the feature set that are tuned for the way that you work. Stuff like RBAC, how can you work across multiple teams? Scale, we've increased our scalability by multiple times over in the past year or so, and we continue to scale out. We continue to increase that. And so, so those kinds of functions for the enterprise specifically. So change with confidence. This is really about orchestration, essentially, and being able to make changes, deliberate changes with Puppet versus waiting for eventual convergence. So you can deliberately deploy code. We introduced the orchestrator at PuppetConf a year ago, and we've talked about it for the past year. We've seen some customer adoption, and we keep kind of evangelizing to our customers that really when you make change, you want to make change proactively, and you want to see the result of that change very quickly, if not immediately. And so, Puppet's desired state convergence is, we want to make that faster. We want to give you that fast result of orchestration. And then finally, bridge to the future. So I think if you've gone to other sessions here, you've heard a lot about Docker, and a lot of our customers are concerned about the investment that they're making today. And they say, well, if I spend all this time and money on PE today, am I going to be able to use it if I deploy on containers in the future? And how is that going to be worthwhile in a couple of years? And so we are developing functionality that's, in order to make that bridge much smoother, in order to enable you to start trying out and adopting these technologies while using Puppet to solve the problems that actually these new technologies, whether it's Docker or Kubernetes or Mesos, that they actually, have problems as well that can be solved by PE. And then finally, PE release cadence. It's in parentheses because it's really not a roadmap theme per se, but we have enough changes coming up with the way that we release and our cadence and our support policy and life cycle that it's worth pointing out and going over how that's going to work. Okay, there we go. So I mentioned situational awareness before and how Puppet can really help you understand the state of your infrastructure and really, collecting that information, seeing those events, and seeing change and truly understanding the nature of that change. And so what we released yesterday was an initial salvo in that, and it's enhanced change reporting. So for a long time, we just would say in our reports back that Puppet ran and it changed something. But we never really gave that full set of information, and people would say, well, we don't know what kind of change it was. So we don't know whether that change was due to code deployed, or did Puppet actually remediate something on the node? Was something fixed? So we've made that differentiation now in our reporting, and we're going to keep enhancing and building on that capability to give you more granularity and more tools to take a look at actually what happened. And we find that not just the deliberate change, but also the corrective change is of great interest to our customers because it's a first indicator of a potential problem with your process or a security breach, or it's really just a flag for a potential issue. So to this, we are adding the ability to also get those results in no-op. So when you simulate a run, whether it would have changed something proactively or correctively. We're also adding to the events tab, if some of you who use PE out there know the events area, to enable you to really have resource level visibility and understand which resources, which classes have had which kind of changes. And then you can actually see not only just sliced and diced by node, but also by different resources and different elements of your code. So later on, we are also working with some partners on extending that also with vulnerability detection and evaluation. And so we're experts at managing your infrastructure. There are other experts out there that are really up to the minute on security and have content for examining, for understanding the security situation. And by working together, we can analyze, we can make change, so deliberate change to remediate vulnerabilities or CVEs or whatever you may call them in your organization. And we can also, on the other hand, detect what's going on and see whether there's some vulnerability that's connected to a change that was made or a vulnerability that is out there that you need to patch and correct. So that kind of gives you an idea of how we're going to be looking at change in the future and how we're going to take that forward. And I just have also, I have a quick slide. There we go. I have a quick slide that I think that probably those of you who are interested in this, you've had a few opportunities to see how it works in the GUI. And I know some of you aren't using the GUI, so hopefully you took a look and you can see at least images here of how corrective and intentional change are called out with their own colors. So on that overview page showing the last several Puppet runs, you could actually see in yellow there's a corrective change that was made in one run, and you can drill into that and see the details and just start understanding whether you should really be worried or care about that change. Okay, so I'm going to ask another question now. So this is your next poll. And this is about the things that you've heard, not just from me, but from the keynote and from the exhibit booths about change reporting and where we're taking it. And we want to understand how you feel about it. We know that we've heard a lot historically from our customers, and now we're delivering it.
Yeah, the thing that I liked about this, and they brought up in the keynote, it lets you change the conversation from Puppet broke my thing to you can be proactive. And
yeah.
We don't want you, like the way that people come at you with a pitchfork, we don't want you to turn that around. But hey, we've got something we can talk about, and I have some evidence, and you can be proactive.
So
Not to sway your vote.
So are we providing a pitchfork here?
Yes.
We're selling you a pitchfork.
A kinder, gentler pitchfork.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Does anyone need more time?
I need a higher option of extremely useful.
I love it.
Yeah.
You just got it.
Right. Yeah, unfortunately you can't vote multiple times, but
A+++
Yeah.
would vote again.
Okay, great. Well, this is great because it shows us, at least among the folks who are gathered here today, that we hit the mark, that we're doing some really useful stuff with our reporting. So we're very glad to hear that and glad that kind of the hypothesis that we developed is correct.
This matches my anecdotal evidence the rest of
Yes.
the conference.
And mine too. There we go. So the next theme is data center standard. And this is a slide that shows all of the things that the technologies and platforms that we support today.
Some of.
You're right, many of the technologies we support today. If some of you are longer-term customers, you've probably seen some of these be added over time. And we keep expanding the technologies that you can manage with PE, the platforms that you can run agents on. So that kind of drumbeat is continuing. And like I said before, I want to modify this a bit from, our goal is to manage it with Puppet. That's definitely true. But we want to make sure that it's stuff that is important to you and that you want. And so one example is we're working with a prospect right now who is interested in managing 1,000 nodes with PE, and they're all on platforms that we currently support, but then they have 70 nodes on a platform that we don't yet support, that we want to support in the relatively near future, but we don't support it yet. And those 70 nodes, unfortunately, though, are the most critical to their business. So they really, for them, those 70 nodes and managing them, they don't want to leave them out of their ability to manage their infrastructure with PE. So, so we continue to try to touch base with customers and understand really where you want us to go with this and what you want to add next.
Yep.
Okay, so here is a list of some of the things that we've either introduced recently or are going to be introducing in the near future. And I included recent and upcoming because a lot of these, they don't follow the Puppet Enterprise cadence. They're frequently released what we call off-cycle. So they're kind of easy to miss, I think, in a lot of cases. We try to do some marketing and announcement around it. But generally speaking, some of the most recent things we've done are on the agent platform side, adding support for IBM Z systems, so running Linux on mainframes. And we've done that with both RHEL and SUSE. We've had a lot of customer interest from that because we sell to financial services institutions, some big European banks, and they're running applications on mainframes still. It's still a big part of their business. Cisco's IOX Evolved XR devices, so that's Cisco's newest operating system that's used in pretty large-scale networks. So we are still working in the networking space. We have F5 support available as well for PE customers, and we're still adding some support in that device area. So I'm going to try to say the Mac platform the way that our ex-Apple person, Eric Sorensen, tells me to.
Which no person in the real world says.
Okay, so Mac OS 10 Sierra just released. We're going to be adding that as well. And then Windows Server 2016, Windows just released it. And we're going to be adding that again in a future release, probably early next year. Windows Chocolatey, so on to a couple of new modules that are coming out. We are introducing one for Chocolatey. And if you're on Windows and you don't know what Chocolatey is, you really should check it out. It's very useful. It's a package manager specifically for Windows. So it's like Yum or apt-get, but for Windows. And actually, it was written by a great developer who today works at Puppet. Yep. So definitely check it out if you haven't yet.
And they have cool stickers. If nothing else, you want the chocolatey sticker.
And t-shirts.
And t-shirt, yeah. They're very cute.
Yeah. So anyway, that's a new supported module. And then IBM WebSphere, we've been working on for a while.
Hot new technology.
Well, it's a very common, again, really important to our customers, our enterprise customers, who, it's really hard to manage technology, and people want to try to use Puppet, use PE to manage it. So let me see if okay. All right. So I wanted to make sure that I kind of drilled more into Windows. And I don't have a poll on this, but how many people in the room are either managing Windows with PE or considering it? Great. OK, so this is relevant for you.
Yeah.
And that's what we hear all the time. We get lots and lots of interest in questions around Windows. I think Lindsay's done many road shows on Windows functionality and Windows roadmap. And one of the, we've been continually saying, talking about how much investment we've made and continue to make in this platform. It's really a first-class operating system for us. And we know that that wasn't always true. But we, for the past couple of years, we've really expanded that functionality, deepened that functionality by leaps and bounds, whether it's hiring Engineers, we have a product manager from directly from the Azure team at Microsoft working with us. And all the way up to the business level. We have a really solid and active partnership with them. And so the reason why I'm showing a pyramid here is because I want to make sure that people understand that it's not just like, we're not just slicing off the top of that and saying that's Windows support. We really have Windows support all the way up and down the stack. So everything from the Puppet agent all the way up to the application layer. So basically, we do 32-bit and 64-bit support for Windows. We have, for the agent. We have broad platform support, everything from Windows 2008 to Windows 2016 coming up. We allow you to do Windows provisioning with Razor, which is our bare metal provisioning tool. We have Windows available on that as well as Linux platforms. We also have a lot of Puppet-supported and approved modules for Windows. In fact, I think it's about a third of our supported modules that are Windows-related. We also have several of them bundled together in what we call the Windows Module Pack, and that is really designed to help our Windows customers have that great set of modules and get up and running, climb up that stack as quickly as possible when they deploy. So I'm just checking to see if I left anything out. So, okay, so we're also working a lot on the Azure side, which isn't necessarily specifically the Windows platform, but it's our relationship with Microsoft. And so there's a couple of interesting things that are happening. We have a supported Azure module available. We're going to be expanding that. And we are also supporting a number of other Azure integrations. So we have the ability to deploy a PE master in the Azure Marketplace. Today we have a trial image, and very soon we're actually going to have a full, fully supported commercial marketplace image out there that for our customers to be 100% deployed in Azure if they want. We're also working on installing the ability to install the PE agent onto Windows through Azure extensions, so on infrastructure as a service VMs. So let me see if I left anything out of the roadmap. Actually, two things I wanted to mention. So we're also working on a supported IIS module, another big pain point for our customers. And then finally, also an Active Directory module is coming out in the short term. Okay. So I have a poll to wrap this up. And this one is, we really want to make sure we get participation because it's actually a fill in the blank. And so when you fill in your response, we'll see what happens. So if you could pick the next supported module, the thing that you most want to use PE to manage in your company, what would it be? We got it.
We've got one.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
It's good, though,
These are not unexpected.
No. See, the more responses we get, the more the word cloud is going to get interesting.
We got Docker.
Yes, we do.
This is not like multi-word responses.
It's pretty cool. So looming over everything is Oracle.
Literally.
Yeah, literally.
Is that like, what's the MQ? Is that MQ series or?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, clearly
is
more
that?
than one person's voted for it. Is it MQ series? I got one nod. Anybody else? Okay.
Okay.
I didn't vote for it, but I should have.
Yeah. I probably should have unchecked the box about multiple responses because that would have been interesting too.
There's a DB2 in there.
Yeah, I see. Lots support. That's not a valid answer.
Things.
Okay. All right. Does anyone need some more time? We can wait another minute.
Yeah. And I think these will stay with us. So
Oh, yeah,
if we move on,
This really is a survey, so.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm getting the Oracle message loud and clear.
Hopefully Oracle gets the Oracle message loud and clear.
No kidding. All right, well, I think we can probably switch off here. Lindsay's going to take the next few slides and the next few polls. Everyone good? Okay. Well, thanks for your input.
Yeah, this is super helpful.
Yes.
All right.
And here we go.
Hey, I'm going to transition to enterprise readiness,
Wanna
which I would
switch?
kind of put into two baskets. One is just the sort of like cost of care and feeding and having a Puppet infrastructure, having, keeping this thing up to date, the operational cost of having this thing. And something that's, we've heard loud and clear for a very long time is the need for high availability, basically at customers of any size. So we're super excited that this should be available before the end of this year. Hugely exciting for us, and hopefully hugely exciting for you as well. And kind of like as part of that is improved install and upgrade tooling. I think historically, staying up to date with us, we haven't made it super easy for you, but we've invested in this literally for multiple years. A lot of investment, a lot of improvement, and it definitely feels like staying up to in these year-numbered releases. People are it's much easier for people to stay up to date. I know that, and we know that you have policies, and there's other reasons why you can't, just hop on to a brand new release right when it comes out. But just in terms of like you as an operational person, the safety and the speed of doing that, it should be much, much better than it has been in the past. Another thing is just in terms of like operating Puppet, another really, really long-term request is Factor is super useful. It collects an immense amount of information. It's like a tool from the very, very, very earliest days of Puppet. And it's awesome until you run it against your storage array, and it takes like 10 minutes to finish. So finally, we're really dealing with that sort of like operational cost of these realities. Like the storage array is kind of the classic one. It just takes forever. Like, why am I doing this every 30 minutes? It doesn't change. And the other thing is like, I'm in EC2, and there's jillions of facts. I don't need all of this stuff. So configurable factor is a couple of things where you can start to kind of performance tune the way this thing is running on your agents. It's like the TTLs would be like, don't do this every 30 minutes. Do it once a day. Do it once a month. Do on the cadence that's sensible. And then the configurable factors is like, look, I just don't care about these things in these machines. There's just either too much data, or for some reason you just want to I just want to elide that stuff. So this is something that's been desired for a very, very, very long time, and it should really kind of help a little bit of sort of like day-to-day operational impact on each of your managed machines. Kind of away from the care and feeding, cost of care and feeding are just being more integrated with the things that you probably already have in your world. Like point solutions are very nice, but it's even better when we could tie things you have together, make a sensible workflow that works with these other things that are in your environment. And so something I've been working on is an integration with VMware's VRO and VRA, and some folks from VMware have been here to talk about it, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. And then another thing, point of integration, is secrets handling. So this is a really important confluence of things in the Puppet world that, like, if you've got a machine that manages a database, well, it's got to have database credentials, which includes that username and password. And so what's in the release that came out yesterday is not putting those things not storing those things in the catalog. You can say that this is a sensitive data, and it will elide that from the catalog. And I think going forward, there's going to be more direct integration with secrets management tooling, like Conjure, who's here. I think there's literally a talk on HashiCorp Vault right now. KeyWiz, there's whatever the AWS is, what is it? KMS. Those are purpose-made tools because secrets management is very serious, very important capability, and we want to be a good partnership with that, so that you keep these things out away from prying eyes, and you can roll secrets and things like that. It's like I think it's a very natural integration for us to provide. So how do I move forward? And then kind of like broadly going forward, like it just says multi-tenancy, which is kind of boring, but there's like it's not boring. The thing is like it means a lot of things to a lot of people, and there was one of the user experience information gathering exercises in the demo area was about multi-tenancy. It's like, what does this mean to you? Like, I could probably give you half a dozen explanations of what it means, what people have told me. And so we're actively trying to figure out, like, what are the ways that we want to go about this? Because to a certain extent, what Puppet in the enterprise means is, what do you do in a multi-team world? Like, Puppet came out of the world where there's a team of 2 people, they've got a few hundred servers, and they sit right next to each other, and they trust each other, and they have root on the box, and it's no big deal. And that's interesting, but probably why you're here is you work for a drastically larger organization that has hundreds of applications or thousands of applications, hundreds of teams. It's a completely different problem set when you're in that environment. And so what we want to do is, like, make Puppet Enterprise the thing that makes the value, brings the value of Puppet into the reality of when you've just got so many people and so many different needs. So stay tuned for that. Oh, how do I move forward?
You got to click there.
Yeah. So the high availability offering that will be coming later this year is, like, we know that Puppet is critical to your ability to operate. Like, there are deployments where if Puppet goes down, all the machines that are managed by Puppet, they can go down too, and that can be catastrophic. And we certainly don't want to be a single point of failure. We want to build a robust system, but at the same time, we want to make, because we, like you, know the realities that, like, stuff goes down, and we don't want to be that single point of failure. We want to give you a path forward. And so kind of the goal of this initial effort is just maintain continuity of catalog compilation. That seems to be, like, the overriding need, that if we can just keep this going until we can, get the thing back up into the state that we want it in, all those machines that are managed by Puppet, they can keep doing their thing, and it doesn't disrupt their service. Something that's really interesting and important to me about this is that we worked with a lot of customers. We worked with our field-facing teams, and we made an end-to-end workflow. This is very much based on their operational experience. It's like, what do you need to do before to get set up? What is going to give you comfort that when stuff hits the fan, that you're going to know what to do and this thing is going to work? And then what do you do when stuff hits the fan? And what are the, what does operating in a degraded state mean? Like, what can you do and what can you not do? How do you get back? What's the impact of the time that you're working in that degraded state? So that aspect I'm super, super proud of, that we didn't just say, okay, well, guess what? PuppetDB has bidirectional replication. Great, go wire it up. And how do you back it up? Well, I don't know. You can figure that out. This is an operational workflow for critical infrastructure, and I'm very proud kind of about the way that we went about that. So, poll time. Do you care?
And how much?
And how much?
Somebody cares.
If your answer surprised us, years of research would.
Literally.
If by research you mean people yelling at us.
No, there was some research too. Yay. We like that top column a lot.
I think CNN is going to call the election with these returns.
Really? Yeah.
I'll point you to the Twitter screenshot on the left. I took this screenshot about 24 hours after it was posted. It has 191 likes, 113 retweets in 24 hours. And I don't think there are that many, system administrators around the world to jack it up, like, I don't know, followers of a Kardashian or something. A lot of people in these enterprise environments, like, provisioning a machine out of vSphere or whatever, or AWS, is really easy. And then you just throw it over the wall. It's like, however, it's not SOE. It's not compliant. You have no visibility, like, what is this machine doing? What version of OpenSSL does it have? What are they doing with it? If you need to go and do something on a machine, how do you do that? You've thrown it over the wall. You have no idea what's going on. Is it being used? Is it important? How much time did the person spend monkeying with it after you threw it over the wall to them? This is a very serious problem, and we see this constantly. Mm-hmm. So this is sort of like this is what we expect that you will either recognize in your environment, or when you start to look around, you will recognize your environment. And I expect that many of the people here, you're that first bucket. You're the Puppet practitioner. You understand Puppet code. You understand how to build roles and profiles. You understand, look, I can manage a machine with Puppet, and I can make it be ready for production work. So we announced a new integration with VMware's VRA and VRO yesterday, and I'm speaking to this specifically, but it's a general pattern, and the things that I'm talking about are also applicable. So if you have something like ServiceNow, or you're in a public cloud, a lot of this stuff is still completely applicable. Mm-hmm. So there's that other person who's responsible for your governance portal, or the cloud administration or cloud utilization. They know about chargeback, they know about governance, and then what you have piles and piles and piles and piles of are consumers that do not care about any of this stuff. They don't care about Puppet, they don't care about VRA, they don't care. They only kind of care about Amazon because it's super fast. I click the button and I get my machine. Like, they don't care about any of your stuff. They just want what they want, and they want it fast, and they want to go away, and they want you out of their hair. And there are lots and lots and lots of them. They outnumber you by like 50 to 1. So the idea is, like, we tried to build an integrated solution that reflects those realities. Everybody here gets a win. The consumer, and look at this guy. He does not care. He does not care about it. You can see it.
But he's winning.
He's winning. He gets a win. He gets what he wants. In the VRA integration, he logs in. There's 6 choices. Oh, I work on the bill pay app. Oh, we've got 6 components in our stack. There's 6 buttons. I want an app server. Click. 3 minutes later, he gets his app server. It's ready for production. He doesn't have to go and fool with it, and he never wrote a line of Puppet code, still doesn't know what Puppet is, doesn't care. But this is Brad. He's our director of education. He could go on his merry way. You, the Puppet practitioners of the world, you get a lot out of this because you still have that extended visibility in the machine throughout its life cycle. You didn't do anything different in your Puppet code. You're still writing roles and profiles. You're still managing these technologies, building up that sort of like Puppet as a service that we can manage every technology that our organization uses with Puppet. We can roll out compliant and SOE infrastructure, and we can remediate these things in the future. We can figure out what's out there in the world, tomorrow or 6 months or 2 years later, what's going on. And then the kind of the VRA admin, they win as well because they didn't have to learn Puppet. It's easy to create these offerings. They can spend most of their time, on the governance and the chargeback and the workflow and those things that sort of like facilitate self-service. So everybody gets a win, and they don't have to go and learn a whole bunch of stuff that's largely irrelevant to their kind of goals in their organization. So I'm very excited about this. And like I said, this basic workflow is going to be applicable and doable in pretty much any source of infrastructure, public cloud, private cloud, OpenStack, what have you.
And the other aspect of it is that if people get what they want, then they're not going to go to shadow IT because they can't get a server fast enough.
Yes.
Next question.
I wish we could see how many people are voting.
Well, I counted the audience, so.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see the numbers.
Hopefully all of you are voting. We'll see later.
Yeah.
And we got a good top bar going.
CNN is going to call the election. Too soon. Too soon. Dang. Thank you. Check it out. It's really cool. You click the button, and then it shows up. Demo is done. Okay, to keep moving. So another thing that we talked quite a bit about on Wednesday morning in the keynote was how we're flipping the way that we make change. Historically, Puppet's been, pull, 0 to 30 minutes, convergence. That was sufficient for a really long time. We want to flip that and go to a direct change model, which should give you not just speed, but great feedback. Tighten that feedback loop. This worked, this did not work, and I'm sure that it's happened, and I can select where I want these things to happen. So there's a bunch of things that are in the release that came out yesterday. First is, we released tools to run on your Mac, Windows, and Linux laptops. Like historically, you would have had to log into a Puppet Master, escalated to root to do something. Now you can do this stuff securely through your own privileges from your Mac laptop. It may not have been clear from the demo on stage. They were actually running that off their Mac, and it wasn't logged in to a Linux Puppet server. So client tools for Windows and Macintosh. So that's the PuppetDB query tools. There's the Puppet job, Puppet code deploy. Those are all in there. So that's never really existed in the Puppet ecosystem before. That's very exciting. And part of that is you can use that Puppet query language they talked about. You can use that for information finding or for directing change. And we want it to be a consistent interface. Like once you kind of like, oh, I see what PQL is for, you're going to be able to use it in all these different places. Like we want to teach you that all the way down into your Puppet code, into ad hoc tasks, into what have you. We just want to have like one way for you to get those, kind of get the thing that you want or direct the thing that you want. It's also, what was weird about the Wednesday demo was we actually took out automation for purposes of demo. Like they don't need a person to sit there and type Puppet code deploy. All of that stuff is automated. And there are APIs for everything. So a lot of this direct change in where do you target Puppet runs or other actions, all that stuff is API. There are APIs for that. And so like once the pattern we see is like, I have a problem, I go and figure out how to do it manually, and then I sort of write a script that kind of, sort of automates but makes me feel bad. And then you figure out how to do that with the API because you establish that level of comfort, and it's all API driven from that point. And then you move on with something else, right? Like we want to enable that basically everywhere in PE. And kind of going forward, like a lot of the direct change stuff, and we're going to continue to expand that stuff, to like really embed that like in your deployment process. Like how do you pick your canaries, or how do you canary test? How do you, choose like, man, we're going to have a rolling release of things, have more control over those things. There's a lot more to come from there. I think I've actually kind of covered this already, but the point is like close that feedback loop, great feedback, right there, positive confirmation that things have happened, and let you direct where activity is happening. Okay, let's pull to, wow.
Oh.
That was
one
fast.
person, maybe?
You read
Yeah.
really fast, whoever
Really?
you were. This is where we expected a lot of variation.
You need an E. You need to do above.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah,
it's true.
You're right. Shoot.
Duly noted. Okay, I think we're running a little short on time. I'm gonna move it. Just go ahead and keep voting, and we'll have all this for posterity.
Yeah.
So, who can talk about containers in 2 minutes? No one. But I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
I would have had to go pretty high level through this, but anyway, like the way an organizing principle for containers for me is a concept of above and below the line, that containers run on some sort of substrate, and that substrate is the kind of the below the line stuff, and then there's like the actual containers, and that's sort of the above. And we have a lot of stuff going on in both of these things. And as you think about containers, hopefully we'll kind of plant a few seeds that will help you kind of like, oh, I can see how I get from where I am today to where I would like to be in the future. And spoiler alert, it's like there are things, if you naively adopt containers, you could lose a lot of the advantages that you have through the usage of Puppet. And that's literally what the bridge to the future is about. It's like, how can you retain the advantages of the things that you have and adopt the advantages of containers? Because those advantages are very real, but it doesn't come for free, and it doesn't come without risk. So on the below the line, a lot of this stuff has been out in the wild. Maybe you've seen it before. So kind of the main buckets are, many people run their containers, they just flat out run Docker on a machine. There's a machine, it runs Docker, the Docker daemon runs containers. The Docker module that made by Gareth, one of our employees, has 800,000 downloads. That's way high, very, very high in the rankings of Puppet modules. Tons and tons of people do it. So it can install Docker, it can run your containers, any of those sorts of like container host management. It's more than Docker, it's some of the other things. And usually when people kind of like, okay, I kind of get it, what I really need is like, I'm gonna need like a farm of these things or a cluster of these things. So you move to the orchestrator and scheduler platforms. So that's Docker Swarm, Docker Universal Control Plane, Docker Trusted Registry, all the Google Kubernetes stuff, the whole Mesos, Mesosphere, Kronos, and Marathon, that whole platform. So there's Puppet content for deploying that stuff as well. And this, for the same reasons that like Puppet is very popular in the OpenStack and Hadoop and Cassandra worlds, it's going to be equally popular in these, because these are just giant, they're just giant clustered systems in the same way that those other things are. And then the third thing is like, this is a little getting close to being above the line, but not quite. Like, so Kubernetes, for example, has the replication controllers, pods, things like that. That stuff is just configuration, right? You can do those things with Puppet as well. Like what is the shape of this pod? How many of them do I have? Is this pod in the right state that I want it to be? Like, it's just configuration, and Puppet can still do those things. So that's sort of like the below the line. Like, what is the thing, Borg that runs all my containers? Borg is the wrong word because that's literally what Google calls it. Sorry, that wasn't intended. And above the line, right? This is the kind of been the gray area for a really long time. But like, where does Puppet fit into this? Does Puppet fit into this at all? Like, or maybe the kind of the naive argument that Puppet doesn't need. You don't need configuration management with Puppet. So the first thing, this is brand new. This was launched yesterday. This is super exciting. Is taking advantage of Puppet's capabilities to build images. And another organizing principle that helps me with containers is, VMs, it's like you kind of build and run at the same time, and the machine lives for a while, and if it's up for 6 months or a year, you might go and look for drift, and you remediate the drift. Like, you just change it, or you patch it. In the container world, that starts to separate quite a bit, and the shape is the same, but the actions are different. You build, and then maybe later you launch, or you might launch 1,000 or 1,000,000, and then if you detect some anomalous condition, you rebuild and burn and then replace. But it's still basically the same thing, right? Like, you need to make a change and you take some corrective action. It's just the specific actions that you take are a little bit different. And so, the thing that we launched yesterday is several advantages. It leverages your existing code base. That's what we showed you on stage. Like, if you're already building, your web server stack or your web server with Puppet, well, you've encoded an immense amount of knowledge about your applications and your organization, and that it would be ridiculous and dumb to throw all that knowledge away. It would be, and if you did go that route, what you would be doing is going back to the world of bash scripting. You'd be teleporting yourself back to 2003 and writing crappy bash in your Docker file. You'd also lose all that visibility. So when there is the canonical OpenSSL vulnerability, you would literally be grepping Docker files from your VCS to figure out who uses OpenSSL. That's how bad it would be. So the idea is that, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but in the same way that Puppet lets you compose things, you can also bring that composability to Docker files. So your Docker files, it's still a thing. You're still building a Docker image, but there's just a little more maturity in how you build that thing, and then kind of like working with those things in a robust way over their entire lifetimes. A reasonable change process. A lot of the reasons why you came to Puppet in the first place, but kind of applied to a container type lifestyle. And then, what about when those things are running? What about minute 2? We talk about immutable infrastructure, but those things really aren't. You probably don't have read-only containers. They're actually mutating the state of the file system inside. Is that okay? Do you know if these things are still in their right state? How would you introspect those things? So those are the things that we're looking into the futures, like that container inventory, because inventory is still very, very useful, even in a containerized world. Do these things still resemble the state that they were when they were launched? If not, why? A lot of there are very few standards in Docker file construction, and we're actively working in the community to develop better standards, because if you analogize like the Docker file to something like an RPM has very well-developed metadata standards, and there's decades of tooling, very, very, very rich tooling built on those standards. Like, Docker files just don't have that. So we're trying to drive, like, how can we put good, solid, dependable metadata into these containers so that you can have all of these, the introspection and all the rich tooling, and which drives automation that you have with something like RPMs or DEBs. So this is the new stuff. Definitely check out the container images. That's on GitHub under the Puppet Labs namespace. And last poll.
Ooh.
Rockstar.
Thanks. Okay, this is pretty much what we expected. We don't encounter too many customers using containers in production yet, but we do talk to a lot of them about their experimenting and testing. Okay, so I'm going to move on because I want to be conscious of your time and we're already running over.
And the beer.
And the beer. So promise, this is the last slide, but hopefully it's worth staying for, because I wanted to talk to you about how our release cadence is going to work going forward and how our support policies are going to work. So yesterday, one of the things that we, actually I don't think that it was terribly loudly messaged, is that the 2016.4 release that was introduced yesterday is actually going to be a long-term supported release. And what that means is we're going to have 24 months of full support for that release, including all the stuff that you get today with full support. So security releases, some bug fixes, all the customer support that you need. We are going to be introducing longer-term supported releases about every 18 months. And so you can see that with the blue line below the other long blue line. And because they are supported for 2 years, that gives a 6-month overlap window for adoption, for testing, after when you have both supported at the same time. Now, as you can see, the orange boxes there are basically our short-term, or we just call them standard releases. This is the kind of cadence that we've been going on for the past couple of years. We've been trying to really speed up our pace of bringing innovation to the market. So it's really important to us that for customers who can take the innovation and see these releases going forward, we want to keep doing that, keep getting the stuff we're building out of the building, out of our building, so that you can try it out, so you can get benefit from it. And just as importantly, so that you can give us feedback and let us know where we can improve it, and we can improve it pretty quickly. So we're going to do both at the same time, supporting that long-term and also having those short-term releases. We do anticipate some customers will start out with the standard release pattern and then say, you know what, I want to stick with an LTS for longer. We think we'll have the reverse too, that customers will say that, I actually want a feature in this release, so I'm going to hop off the LTS and go to the standard release. So that's how things are going to look going forward, and it's the first time that we've really had a much more planned and measured release cadence planned going forward. So that's the end of, oh, wait, do I have another?
Oh, that should be
No,
it.
I don't have another poll. That's it.
I hope not.
Questions. So,
Back to the first slide. So for the 2 years we will have for the version 2016.4, like what the version number is going to be like? It's still going to be 2016.4.1.4.2 until 2018? Or you
Yes.
yeah. No, the version for the long-term supported release will stay the same, except we will be introducing dot releases, so what we traditionally have called Z releases along the way. So we definitely want our customers to stay up to date with any bug fixes and, of course, security releases.
Yeah. That should mitigate the confusion about the years. So it'll be the same way we've had 3.8.1.2.3. I know we're only on 7 or 8 now, but it'll stick with that.
Can you expand a little bit more on your VMware timeline integration?
Sure, that should be available in about a month or so. If you talk to your solutions engineer, we could probably demo it for you, now, but it should be available pretty soon. And that's for VRO and VRA. 6, 7, the 7.2 is coming out. It's like 6 through 7.2.
Yeah, I had basically the same question. What version is high availability and VRA going to be in?
So the VRA, that'll be compatible with 2016.4. That's the release that came out yesterday. The plugin is going to be on the VMware Marketplace, and it's going to come out in about a month. The high availability launch should be in the following PE release, which should be before the end of this year. That's the plan.
Okay, anyone else? Okay.
Going once?
Well, if anybody wants to come up and talk, we're
Yep.
here, so. Please feel
Especially if you
welcome.
bring us a beer.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for
Hey,
sticking
have
around.
a good year. Have a great rest of your year. We'll see
Thank
you
you.
next year at San Francisco.